There, New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani saying 300 or more firefighters are missing, believed dead, and dozens of police officers as well.
Can't see.
All right, those pictures obviously from earlier of the rubble around the World Trade Center. Jim?
Devastation this day also in the nation's capital. Let's go now to the Pentagon and Bob Franken live for an update on the situation there. Bob.
Well, it's been about 16 hours, Jim, since the explosion here, since the plane collided with this west side of the Pentagon, and you can see it's still smoldering a little bit. They're still waiting for the embers to stop going so they can actually go into the building. We saw just a moment ago some of the supervisors. They were lowered in what looked like a bucket. They were actually being lowered into the bombed out building where the plane had hit so they could take a look and just see what the status of the fire was. The plan is at daybreak to literally peel away the wall a little bit and then go in. Of course, about 15 hours ago, we had some video that was shot shortly after the plane had collided with this side of the building. You can see that there was quite a bit of firefighting effort going on. There were literally hundreds of firefighters going. They were trying to put out a blaze that's still going till now. They fought all day with this, and of course there was also an evacuation of the injured. We don't have any sense of the casualties yet. We've been told that they could number in the hundreds. There could be more than 100 dead. There are wide estimates. The Pentagon is not giving any estimate. Perhaps we'll know more tomorrow when officials are actually able to go inside the building. A plane, of course, collided shortly after 9:30 this morning. A plane that was flying from Dulles, and of course it was taken by hijackers. That is the report, of course, and was then moved into the Pentagon, causing the damage that it did. Now, people talk about retaliation, and the Pentagon is already thinking about that, and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff says that he will have the forces necessary.
I extend my condolences to the entire Department of Defense families, military and civilian, and to the families of all those throughout our nation who lost loved ones. I think this is indeed a reminder of the tragedy and the tragic dangers that we face day in and day out, both here at home as well as abroad. I would tell you up front, I have no intentions of discussing today what comes next, but make no mistake about it, your armed forces are ready.
And tomorrow they will be ready to open the Pentagon. It's become a matter of pride here. At least they're going to be opening part of the building. The Defense Secretary said he's determined to do that, to prove to the world that terrorism cannot knock down a building, cannot knock down the spirit of the American military. Jim?
Bob, the toll of dead and injured there at the Pentagon, does anyone know for sure?
As a matter of fact, the Pentagon is quite assertive about the fact that no estimates can be made. There was a local fire chief who said that the deaths could range between 100 and 800. Pentagon officials think that that is way too high, the 800 number, but it is clearly possible that there could be deaths that number in the hundreds.
All right, Bob Franken reporting there live from the Pentagon. Colleen?
All right, Jim, the attacks brought much of the United States to a halt as people watched events unfold transfixed. Schools, offices were closed. Highways across the country fell into gridlock as thousands of people returned to the sanctuary of their homes. But nowhere was the sense of shock so profound as in Manhattan. Greg Clarkin has that.
The terror attacks on the World Trade Center paralyzed New York and brought life to a standstill across America. Manhattan was sealed off minutes after the attacks on the Twin Towers. Tunnels and bridges closed, subway and commuter rail service suspended. Hundreds of thousands of people staggering out of the financial district on foot, on highways usually clogged with cars. Many scrambled to call loved ones only to find payphones and cell phones rendered useless. The World Trade Center was a major hub of telecom equipment, and call volumes swamped phone networks. Manhattan supermarkets were jammed and long lines formed at cash machines. New York City police precincts were sealed off, and an urgent plea for blood was issued as hospitals throughout the metropolitan area were pressed into service.
Right now, at last count, we were utilizing over 50 I think it'll be over 100 by the and that was as of a half hour ago. And we're utilizing all of the hospitals in New York City. We're utilizing the hospitals in Westchester and Rockland, Nassau County, northern New Jersey.
For the first time in United States history, airports across the country were shut down, and they'll stay that way until at least noon on Wednesday.
The Federal Aviation Administration ordered all airports closed, and all planes which were in the air were directed to land at the nearest airport. Transportation Secretary Mineta has directed the Federal Aviation Administration to suspend operations until at least noon tomorrow.
Amtrak canceled train service between New York and Boston. Greyhound canceled a big chunk of its service as well. Government buildings and businesses across the country were evacuated. Security tightened along the U.S. border with Mexico and Canada. NASA shut its centers down, and even some offshore oil drilling in the Gulf of Mexico is suspended. Stock trading was canceled, and financial markets will be closed all day Wednesday. Major League Baseball canceled its schedule for the first time since FDR's death in 1945 and for only the fourth time in its history. The NFL is considering canceling Sunday's games. Across the U.S., tourist attractions and landmarks shut down. Disneyland, Disney World, and Seattle's Space Needle among them. Back in New York, the mayoral primary election was also canceled. Greg Clarkin, CNN, New York.
All right, for some insight now into how Americans view the attacks, CNN, USA Today, and Gallup conducted a public opinion poll just before the president's speech. 86% of those questions said they considered the events an act of war. But the majority agreed the U.S. military should not strike back until it is clear who is responsible for the attacks. And 78% said they were confident of President Bush's ability to handle this situation.
Some relatives of the people killed had to deal with this attack right as it was happening. A man on board one of the planes called his mother as the aircraft was being hijacked, and this is so upsetting I can't tell you. Mark Bingham, a passenger on United Airlines Flight 93 that was en route from Newark, New Jersey to San Francisco, he called his mother just minutes before the plane crashed near Pittsburgh.
That I love you very, very much. In case I don't see you again.
I said that.
That the plane has been taken over by hijackers. And then I said, well, we love you very much too, Mark. Let me go get your mother.
I got on the phone, Mark, and he said, hi, Mom, this is Mark Bingham. Give me his last name. And he said, I want to let you know that I love you. And I'm flying, I think he said, I'm in the air. I'm calling you on the air phone of the airplane.
In his seat?
I presume so. He said, I want you to know I love you very much, and I'm calling you from the plane. We've been taken over. There are 3 men that say they have a bomb. And I said, well, who are they, Mark? And he repeated that he loved me, and he said, I don't think he said, I don't know who they are. He became distracted there, as if someone was speaking to him, and he said it's something to the effect of it's true, and then the phone went dead.
An emergency dispatcher in Pennsylvania where United Flight 93 crashed said that he received a call from a passenger on board the plane as well, and that man repeatedly said, we are being hijacked, we are being hijacked. Jim?
Millions of people all around the world remained riveted to their television screens for hours once they heard about the attacks. Ann McDermott has more on the U.S. public's reactions to what they were watching.
The pictures were just so insane that all these University of Southern California students could do was stare. But the younger ones had questions, lots of questions.
But when I first saw on the news, I sort of wondered how protected we really are in America.
Think they'll be able to catch all the people involved?
Their teacher, for once, had no answers.
How? Why? These are the questions.
And here's one more.
Do you think anything like this would ever happen again?
Will it happen again? Psychologists say that's what can make people so crazy at first.
It's not that we're afraid of the unknown. In the face of the unknown, we fill it in. We think there are monsters out there, and we actually end up frightening ourselves more.
Many of these people in an LA area gym admitted they were frightened and came here only for something to do.
I'm looking at the streets and it looks like Beirut, and I can't believe it's my backyard.
The smoke continues to billow out of the Trade Center building 6 hours.
I think we're definitely going to go to war.
This Korean War vet sure hopes not, but he knows the feeling.
I see what it says right there. America under attack. People didn't have to die.
But they did die, and America's in mourning. Ann McDermott, CNN, Los Angeles.
All right, we are actually coming to the end of this hour of coverage of America Under Attack. It has been about 16 hours since all of this horror began. The attacks on New York and Washington Tuesday, September 11th, will never be forgotten by those who experienced them firsthand or by the millions of people around the world who actually saw them unfold.
I heard the sound of a jet. I assumed it was like a Navy jet or something like that, just flying by.
We heard a big bang, and then we saw smoke coming out, and everybody started running out, and we saw the plane on the other side of the building, and there was smoke everywhere.
Then I heard a large explosion. I thought it was a sonic boom. And when I heard the explosion, I looked up, and what I saw red, and I saw debris start to fall down.
As soon as he got hit, I was thrown to a window. So I was very lucky to get out. There's a lot of people that didn't get out. There's a lot of people coming down the stairs, burnt up. It's bad.
There was an enormous fireball. There was fire, debris falling to the ground, and then just a whole kind of mushroom of smoke that sort of just billowed up. And I just stood there in absolute disbelief.
There was a lot of people hurt. They were lying on the floors, coming down the stairs. A lot of people had asthma attacks while they were coming down. It was bad.
Everybody was screaming. Everybody was running. The cops were trying to maintain the calm. And in that haste, people were stampeding. People started screaming that there was another plane coming. I didn't see the plane, but I turned around, and the second building just exploded.
And we see a second commercial jet flying extremely low actually collide into the south tower of the building. At that point, we decided just to get out of there. People were just going crazy at that point, evacuating.
I saw people jumping off the building. Many, many people just jumping.
And people were just climbing, they were just falling down. I saw about 6 people falling down from the building from the binoculars. I saw a lady with a black suit, she fell down, and a boy with a white shirt, he fell down, and it was horrible.
If you go over by there, you can see the people jumping out the window. They're jumping out the window right now. Oh my God.
Everybody was on top of each other trying to come down, and then somebody finally calmed the crowd down to get them to come down the stairs in an orderly fashion and get them out of the building.
We saw the south tower collapse to the ground, decimated, and then later, it was very amazing to see the north tower standing there by itself after years and years and years of seeing them together. And then all of a sudden, the north tower just collapsed upon itself and just fell to the ground. It was a cloud of dust that covered all of downtown Manhattan.
These New York policemen and firemen, God bless them, they kept us calm. They tried so hard to keep us moving north, and it was just absolute horror. It was horror.
Now, those are the words from the day America came under attack. Let's take a look at some of the pictures of the day, of the damage that has been done as a demarcation line is crossed, in the words of some, a line that separates past from future in the way that the U.S. is likely to deal with terrorism, and the realization, above all, that it is not isolated, that it is not safe because it is sheltered between 2 oceans, the Atlantic and the Pacific. Many people that you heard their voices there never believed they would see these kinds of scenes as a result of a deliberate act of violence. But that is indeed what was witnessed in New York City, in Washington on this day. People believing that the security that had been in place would prevent these kinds of scenes. The utter destruction of 2 of the landmark buildings in New York City at the very heart of the financial district, symbols of, as some would say, of capitalism, of America's financial strength. But they were laid low this day by 2 hijacked jetliners that were plowed into the side at a horrible cost in human life. The news continues now on CNN.